Hello everyone, it's Wardy and I'm going to be doing another AlphaStar cast here today. So welcome everyone, and let's just do a quick couple of intros. In the bottom right will be a red Zerg player, who we don't know who it is. All we know is that they're in the Grandmaster League on the European server. And in the top left hand side, our blue Protoss player is AlphaStar. So this is, at the moment we're doing a few AlphaStar videos. We seem to be getting some pretty decent engagement on them. Obviously, if you do like what you hear here today, then do consider hitting that like button on the video, consider leaving a comment down below, or obviously subscribe to the channel. Quite literally, I mean, I know people say this all the time, and it really is true. I look at what you guys are liking, I look at what you guys are watching, and what, you know, if it gets enough views, we'll do more of it. So if you like this AlphaStar stuff, just like the video, leave a comment. It really does sway me to do more, because I was kind of tempted to do something from the Alima League today, but I figured what we might do is we might do some alternations. So we might do an AlphaStar day and then do like a non-AlphaStar day on the YouTube channel or something along those lines for the next little while. That's the current plan, at least. So do check all of that out as we get into what will be a PvZ. So also, I don't know how long this map is, but I do like my videos on YouTube to be at least 20 to 30 minutes long, to give you a good little chunk of StarCraft to kind of dive into. So if this game is less than 20 minutes long, we'll be doing a second map after this as well, just to kind of, you know, make a couple of games. And we'll keep it to the same matchup, so we'll keep it with AlphaStar playing Protoss against a Zerg opponent. So AlphaStar meeting the power of Protoss here, and is just going to start walling off here to get things going on King's Cove. So obviously, if you've been watching StarCraft recently, or maybe if you're not kind of used to watching StarCraft at all, you're just interested in AlphaStar, this is a map that was played a couple seasons ago, or a season or so ago, so a couple of months ago. It's not in the ladder pool anymore. It's a very macro-friendly map, and what we say by being a very macro-friendly map is it's very easy to take lots of bases on, it's very easy to defend those bases. And that's the big difference, right? Because typically in StarCraft 2, any map is easy to take bases on. But on this map, you can get to a lot of bases very easily, because you can take a third base over here, and there's only 2 attack paths up into your 3 bases. Take a 4th base down here, and you can basically hold both of those attack paths into your 3 bases by holding a 4th base. You can even take this base, which is very set back, and the map's also very large, which means attacks and aggression don't work too well, so we typically see much longer games on a map like King's Cove. And especially defensively as well, because aggressively, even if you get a larger army on this map and you're pushing up here, it's so difficult to push into your opponent, because you can't push in over here too narrow a choke point. If you push in over here, your opponent's going to have a lot of wide open space to surround your army and to take a very good fight. You can try and drop up here or drop along here, but that's pretty much the only way you can get aggression going on this map. So it really is one of those maps you expect to see a lot of aggression, a lot of kind of longer games on, a lot of sort of more macro-focused setups and players going up to 3 bases very quickly. Now for the Zerg, that's pretty typical. But expect generally a greedier play out of Protoss players, but of course this is AlphaStar. We'll see what AlphaStar wants to decide to do in the next little while, as the couple of adepts are going to go shading up in toward the main base, and they're going to start picking off some drones here. So Zerg player was just caught a little bit off guard. That depth shade coming in, actually getting 4 drones. That's going to be 5, and might get 1 more. No, they've kind of pulled away from the drones, so not in range any longer. But that's really nice to get 5 drone kills this early in the game. It's completely worth the first 2 adepts. 5 drones is just huge when we're talking about 3.5 minutes. And, you know, you consider the Zerg economy at the moment is 25 drones. It should be 31. That's a big percentage, right, of drones that aren't there any longer. It's what, like 16 and 2/3% or something? I don't know, do the math. But, yeah, it's like 16% of your economy just went down the drain because you didn't deal with those adepts properly. And the Zerg player built Zerglings to go and deal with those adepts as well. So to then let them do damage after you've built Lings is really painful, because if those Lings weren't made, at least you'd have a couple more drones. But it's kind of like drone damage on top of drone damage. So the Zerg economy already early on here a little bit weaker. There's AlphaStar floating some minerals, mostly because of this Nexus not coming up. It's going to go for the triple Oracle play, which is actually fascinating, because triple Oracle was kind of figured out by human players about, it was at the start of August, the ASUS ROG tournament that took place in Helsinki, Finland. Stats came in with this triple Oracle build, and triple Oracle became the new metagame after that. Stats used it in the semifinals to take down Serral, very infamous, very famous rivalry between those two at this point, and Yeah, so it's really crazy to see AlphaStar actually coming in and saying, yeah, you know what, 3 Oracles seems like a really good number. And this is what fascinates me about AlphaStar's learning process. The fact that it really has learned and learned and learned, and it's come out with similar solutions to what we look at day in and day out now in the world of StarCraft. I mean, you know, if you covered up the nameplates here and asked me to pick which one of these is AlphaStar, I couldn't tell you, right? Because this is, maybe this wall-off is a bit weird. That's probably the weirdest thing we've got going on so far here. But other than that, you know, AlphaStar's playing pretty regularly. Now, this 4th Oracle, that's a little bit different. So we'll see what comes in on that as these Oracles make a pretty traditional dive-by onto these drones. And you've got to look at that Zerg economy and just realize it is getting absolutely hammered here early on. 36 workers now. We're going to see a Ling Bane comp, which is very popular on this map just because you can take very good fights here. It's very difficult to kind of force field this entire area off. So Ling Bane works quite nicely. Also run some Ling Bane on this side as well. And you get a good engagement on zone. Probably as the lair comes up, we'll see a Hydralisk Den coming in. These Lings are going to get run by off, and that's one of the weaknesses from AlphaStar. Just didn't have any sort of wall off here. No unit that kind of holding the wall and stopping these Lings from getting in, so that's something which I feel like most of the time human players would probably already have at this stage, but you know, we see run-bys being successful all the time, right? Whether it's by a mistake or just ignorance to the fact it could happen. As AlphaStar pulls a couple probes away here and there, and overall, these Lings are going to get cleaned up. 9 probes down, that's nice, because it really does bring the Protoss back. Now, obviously, that damage is done much later than the damage of the that was done to the Zerg players, so it's got a little less of an impact because it hasn't hurt the economy early. Generally, in StarCraft 2, the earlier you hurt the economy, the more damage you've done, right? Because if you hurt the economy super early on, that effect's going to last for longer in the game. It's going to slow down, setting up more economy, setting up more army from that early stage. So it is nice, though, because it does bring our Zerg player back into the game a little bit from a position that wasn't looking good at all. Now we're going to see Charge coming up on this Twilight Council. The Robo Bay dropping down in the main base as well. These few Oracles hanging out overhead and flying back away. So far, just a lot of aggression, and I kind of find this crazy, right? These Adepts still trying to shade in at this stage. I guess it's because, in a way, you know, this aggression mostly able to happen because of how much damage has been done earlier. And the Zerg is not where you'd want to be. At 7.5 minutes, you'd expect Ling Bane Hydra on the map. And where are we? We're on a pure Ling Bane composition. You know, lair tech units aren't even in sight. The only reason there's a lair up is for +2 melee and a Baneling speed. So in that regard, these Adepts, they don't really scale well into mid-game PvZ unless they have Resonating Claves upgrade. They don't, and it's typically not worthwhile to build that upgrade. But right now, they're forcing aggression, they're getting some damage done, you know, a little bit of hits onto this 4th base, and eventually they will trade with these Zergs. You can see, even against these Lings and Queens, they trade kind of badly, and that's why you don't typically see them at this stage of the game, as this one Adept will get one more drone, and maybe 2. No, not quite, just a couple of nibbles from the Lings will shut that down. Alright, well, AlphaStar decides to go into Disruptors. So Disruptors on the way out. We'll take this 4th base up to this top side. There's a very typical couple of pylons here, so you can wall off a couple of units that want to sit inside there, maybe set up some defenses. Big Ling counter-attack, and the Oracles are on their way back home. This is one of the big benefits of opening Oracle earlier in the game. By the way, lost 1 Oracle, so it's 5 Oracles built in total this game. The Oracles are very good at dealing with these Ling-based attacks, and the fact that at the moment it's purely Ling Bane on the map is actually really good for AlphaStar, because the Oracles are just going to clean up so much of what this Zerg player has to offer, which is really quite crazy. Circling's back down to the bottom side, another hatchery on the front, so as they're trying to get up and running macro hatches, hatch on the bottom, you can just see how bad the creep spread is as well. Super set back, hasn't really had much presence on the map, has had other things to worry about throughout the course of this game. As our Dark Shrine comes up, AlphaStar, it's definitely not your typical Protoss versus Zerg composition, and again that wall-off, or lack of it, is going to hurt as these Lings go run into the main DT Shrine Scout as well, so you get a little bit of a heads up on that. Probes do pull away, Disruptors are around to try and help. Again, this is typically not your kind of standard, you know, PvZ army, as you see Disruptor shot there. Doesn't really connect on much. Oracle trying to hold at the front as well. More Oracle shots coming in. Now, Zerg has a lot of money in the bank, so keep that in mind. If they can spend that money, the supplies would be a little bit closer, but also only on 57 drones. Really needs to try and saturate up this 4th base here. I mean, I know they've been losing drones throughout the game. There's no reason to make so many more lings here, not just pump the drones. If you get these run buys off and you're already on 70 plus workers, you're in a much better spot. As it stands, AlphaStar loses a few probes and is still on 78 probes. It's ridiculous. And a little bit oversaturated now. Typically this is where you'd expect to see probes stop being made. But not the case just yet, as we'll see a Spire dropping down in the back of that main base. Dark Templar here from AlphaStar is going to find a drone, and this is one of the things the Zerg had an idea about. Seeing that Dark Shrine just gives you the heads up and deals with that well. It's just the lack of economy from the Zerg. It's not even about kind of just, oh, that was a good run by more. It's just the Zerg is not mining enough. And I know it's been a tough game, it's been a weird game, getting set up into the economy. But for me, there's no reason you shouldn't be up at 70 to 80 workers now. Again, lings take up a lot of lava, and I can understand the idea of, oh my god, get lings on the map, maybe I can harass, maybe I can do something. But in the long term, these lings are not going to win you the game, and that is the current problem. More and more disruptors pour out of AlphaStar, and that again is a very intriguing composition. An Archon mixed in, but only the one. AlphaStar is just so good with these Oracles as well, just consistently showing up, and time again, there's just not the proper defense in position. There's not even a Spore Crawler on this base, so 2 Queens go down. Now 3 Queens will come in here together, and they might be able to get themselves an Oracle. In fact, they will. AlphaStar won't mind giving up 1. You will want to keep a few Oracles up because you want to keep constant revelations on the Zerg army. The revelation and ability from the Oracle reveals whether the opponent's army is at all time, for about a minute or so once you tag them with that ability. So it's really nice if you have at least 2 Oracles, because that means you can constantly rotate revelations. You can always have a revelation available. It's not quite 4 minutes, that being said. It's like 30 to 40 seconds, I believe. Alright, a couple of Balins actually going to make it in. AlphaStar is going to lose an entire mineral line. I mean, Balins with +2 melee, they do one-shot probes. It's a nice little strike to the economy there, as we do see Mutalisks on the way up. Again, the Zerg's kind of been scrambling all game long, so it isn't looking good in any way, shape, or form, as a few more Zealots and DTs warp in, and this army's getting ready to push down in towards this hatchery. Zerglings out in the center, Oracles coming over from the left-hand side. And this Archon Disruptor Phoenix army just going to be moving up to this high ground here, as we're just going to be seeing the Mutalisks flying in, and the Balins do crash in towards the Disruptor there for a moment. I mean, the Mutas just aren't going to do anything against this. The fact there's even Phoenix here from AlphaStar, the preparation for potential Mutalisks is great. Now that is a lot of Mutalisks, right? I mean, the Zerg stacked up a lot of money here, has 25, and that's even after already losing a few. There's a hallucinated Archon, I love that. Well, why not? Tank some damage, be a bit of a distraction, as AlphaStar will go pushing up this round. I mean, again, mostly fighting with Mutalisks here. There's no way to kill these Archons, and that's the problem. Even the Lings popping out, there's no gas to realistically build Banelings, so you can't even try and crash into this. I like what the Mutas are doing. They're trying to pick off units when they're away from the Archons. The Oracles go down, etc., so a couple units at a time. And that's what you kind of have to do here. You kind of have to hope AlphaStar will kind of split up these units a bit too much. And then again, well, gets a couple Archons off on that right-hand side, so the Mutas are starting to get a little bit of something done. Comes back in for an Archon around the top, another Mutalisk goes down. It just feels like there's probably a bit too much here, as, again, overall, a very funky composition from AlphaStar, but it feels like it just deals with whatever. And it is going to work out in this scenario as well, as a few extra Stalkers get brought into play. The Mutalisks will come around the top side, Archon's firing. A Disruptor shot's actually going to blow up some Stalkers there. AlphaStar, that's not quite great. Maybe he was trying to disruptor down some Zerglings and then didn't realize that they were there. Remember, AlphaStar is limited on the APM it can use, so micro mistakes are absolutely a possibility, and that wasn't a micro mistake on that disruptor shot. Absolutely no two ways about it as AlphaStar pushing up this ramp, and, well, as it comes up here, these mutants are just going to be in so much trouble. Again, all you have to do is keep these Archons relatively close together, and that will be enough to win the game. AlphaStar picks up a map here, so GG's. It was a fun game, but really just AlphaStar finding good damage. While these aren't maybe the craziest back and forth games, what I really love seeing is what's so interesting to me is that these are games where AlphaStar looks so realistic in the openers and the positioning of buildings and stuff like that. And that's what really boggles my mind, that AlphaStar could get to that level. That's crazy. Just the level of realism to a human player. Crazy. Right, what's coming up next, guys? Because this was obviously 14 minutes, we're going to do another game of AlphaStar. We'll do another PvZ, but again, I'll say this right now, it won't be the same Zerg player necessarily. These replays aren't labeled or anything. It'll just be another game I find of Grandmaster Zerg taking on AlphaStar's Protoss. We'll be back with that in a moment. Alright. Game number 2 of this best of... Well, it's not a best of 3, is it? But it's our second game of AlphaStar today. I'm getting myself into, like, that's just, like, brainwashed, I know, you know, automatic mode going on. A second game here, so again we're going to have a red Zerg player who is going to be the Grandmaster player against AlphaStar playing the blue Protoss. Again, this is not necessarily the same Zerg player, that's why we're not keeping score or anything. But this is going to be a second game today. Again, like I said, I'd like to put a couple of these maps in each video if they're not long enough to kind of justify their own video. I really hate just putting up like 10-minute videos and stuff. Like, I don't know. When I look for a StarCraft video, I like to sink my teeth deep into, like, you know, really get in for like 20-30 minutes or so. I don't want to watch like 10 minutes. It's like, well, guys, that was our one map for the day. See you later. As you see, Overlord heading into the middle of the map. Probe from AlphaStar coming across. So we'll have a look to see what happens here early on in New Repugnancy now. New Repugnancy compared to King's Cove, a very different map in certain ways. Much shorter rush distance, so we even saw AlphaStar when playing Zerg against Terran was playing a very aggressive style of roach, kind of all-ins, which is very popular on this kind of map in general, just again, shorter rush distance. Kind of an open natural to attack into as well, so that works quite nicely. When it comes to 3-4 bases here, you can get up to a good economy. You can take a forward base as well. This forward base is harder to defend actually later in the game for Protoss especially, because as Broodlords come out, Broodlords are very good at flying over here and just attacking over this ledge when you can't really get on top of them. So this base is actually very interesting. You might say, oh, well, it's got 1, 2, 3 bases like the last map and a 4th base in the low ground, but it works very differently because of the way the map's designed. There's extra access points over here as well. It is interesting, but it is still typically an easy enough 3 bases. Oftentimes you'll actually see 3 bases going up this way instead of down on this pocket expansion. Just because of the fact that sometimes it's easier to take 3rd base, and then your 4th base up here makes a lot more sense, and expanding that line can be a lot easier to defend as well. So we get into this game, and so far, I mean, again, pretty typical at the start. This wall-off looks a little bit more secure and standard compared to the last game. The last game, we were talking about a wall-off that just didn't really make any sense. There's a lot of surface area. There was a bit more of a gap than just one Zealot could wall off as well. And it was the one thing that the Zerg really did abuse on AlphaStar a couple of times over. As we do have the adept moving out into the center of the map. The Overlord is going to be hanging around, and we'll see that adept continue to shade across over to the right side. It's going to be a creep tumor dropping down at the front there as our Stargate is about to finish up from AlphaStar. So second game in this PvZ matchup where AlphaStar will decide to go, aha, I'm going to go and build up a Stargate and probably get some Oracles on the map. We'll see if it wants to go into a Phoenix early on as well, potentially. I mean, Oracle Phoenix. Oracle is a good way to open. That typically means you'd only go for 2 Oracles and not more. In fact, AlphaStar went up to 5 Oracles in total last game. May just say that this is going to be pure Oracles once again if it feels like that's the way it wants to play Protoss versus Zerg. Much better defense from the Zerg this time around. You can see the drone damage is absolutely non-existent compared to the last game. That will be 1 drone, okay. So 1 drone goes down the end. The Adept just shades out alive. Did get a couple of Zerglings, but the Zerg will be in a much better economic position this time around than last time. You know, last time we were talking about a Zerg on 26 drones against 36 probes. Now about 5 drones down. We'll see that being a Zerg lead in the next few moments because they can build, you know, a lot of drones at once. The Protoss is limited to 2 probes at a time, 1 from each of these nexus, whereas the Zerg, they spawn the lava, and obviously with the injects from the Queens, you know, a few lava pop out at a time, so that drone count will catch up and overtake soon enough. And you can see AlphaStar already going to decide to take that 3rd base, so nice and early. Again, for 3 bases as a Protoss player, it's pretty easy to take. That's a nice catch on a drone that pops out, but it builds a Spore Crawler. As Zerg here is nice and on top of things, but has to cancel. Oracle DPS does outshine the building Spore Crawler, and actually the drone will end up going down. Still a good attempt to minimize damage taken, though. So you've got the 3rd Nexus coming up here, and again, you already see that kind of difference in expansion pattern as well. The Zerg expands in this linear format. Protoss will take the pocket expand. The Protoss just likes to work with these ramps a lot and being on the high ground. The Zerg, again, you know, moving up and down the map is very easy. Putting yourself into a hatchery here makes it very abusable when all of a sudden you have a warp prism that drops some units here, then goes straight to the main base. So this linear expansion pattern works a little bit more strong in that regard. As our lair about halfway done, and this Oracle of AlphaStar pulling back down to the bottom left-hand side. Zerglings continue to run in towards the adepts here, and a couple of drones will start to go down. So a couple of workers dropping these adepts, finally finding some damage, and it's actually 10 workers killed, so all said and done. Again, AlphaStar has found some good early game drone damage against our Zerg player here. And the Oracles are back home to defend against the Zerglings as well. Good defense to turn those around and just make nothing happen at all. Rubber facility and the forge. On the way up in the main. Just going to be seeing the spire dropping down in the back of this main base as well from our Zerg. So it's going to again see kind of some middleless play. Obviously this game is looking very different in general, and AlphaStar still keeping up this adept aggression, which is again traditionally just not really seen, because usually what you'd say is, what are 4 adepts going to do? Well, this turns out they're doing quite a lot, and not only just a bit of damage here and there, they're also scouting the spire, which is amazing information to work with, right? Now you know there's a spire up, you know what's going on, and that's obviously really, really good for you, as we do see some Zerglings heading down to the bottom side. There's a couple of Stalkers will walk in. That's a good defense there. So, again, it's kind of interesting in that regard, right? I mean, it sees a spy, just the adepts going in again and again. Maybe if it was resonating glaives, you'd expect that, but it's that investment into adepts, which are also being used to kind of attack, that's really slowing down a lot of the rest of the army. So typically, it would kind of make this, Protoss player be perhaps a bit weak to counters, but with the damage done, it doesn't look as though it's going to be the case. We do see Oracles just be able to pick away at a few more Zerglings, and Hydral's Den does finish it up on that third. Things out in the center, and a few Oracles just moving around out into the center. +1 melee, +1 flyer attack coming up. Forge speed coming in. And you see the Twilight Council just on the way on the charge. So, charge on the way up. Getting rolling here. That Spore Crawler going to be setting up as well. As you do just see the couple of queens. With the Oracle, with the Spore Crawler, you can just see the Oracles are going to dive in. It goes much better than it went in the last game, though, for the Zerg player, where that Spore Crawler just makes such a huge difference. 2 Oracles go down. Again, I think that's the kind of the amount you want to kind of lose if you're going to lose some Oracles, right? Keeping 2 to 3 Oracles alive really is a nice little number. And as you can see the Phoenix being built in preparation for mutas, we actually see Corruptors coming out from our Zerg. It's just that eco damage has really added up. And again, a Zerg that just doesn't want to get back to a good work account, I actually feel like AlphaStar might just get pushing soon, because there is not a lot from the Zerg play at the moment, and the economy is down. I don't feel like there's a world in which an attack is going to be badly set up at the moment. Let's see what AlphaStar wants to do, as we do have Corruptors finding those Oracles, and we'll push them back, but no kill. I mean, especially with the Corruptors, though. The Corruptors are such a dead weight in the Zerg army when it comes to fighting. Like, these Phoenix aren't really designed to take a fight anyways. Maybe the Corruptors can get a War Prism. We're going to see mutas on the way out again now. So mutas are going to come up. The idea is the Corruptors come out to fight the Phoenix, and then the mutas come up. And once the Phoenix are being pushed back by the Corruptors, the Mutalists can get into play and do what the mutas do, harassing and being very frustrating. But I just feel like our Zerg has nowhere near enough units to really defend this attack. So AlphaStar pretty much just masses of Stalkers, doesn't even have Blink, by the way. These are such strange attacks, and to me, like, I would actually, I think, struggle. Like, the mechanics look like Grandmaster mechanics, right? But the unit compositions and so on definitely don't. And these to me, this push looks crazy. You got so many Stalkers, you got no Blink. But AlphaStar is just so confident in the information it's picked up through attacking throughout the game. It's just going to push in and find itself a victory. So AlphaStar, the power of Protoss is good today to take down a couple of drones and basically win the game off of that. Interesting games. I feel like the Zergs didn't put up much of a fight, sadly, which is a bit of a shame, but alas, what can you do? So that's going to wrap up today's couple of AlphaStar casts, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Again, please do consider leaving a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking, or at the very least, consider liking the video. It goes a long way to supporting the content and the channel, etc., and all of that good stuff. So do consider checking that out, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm not sure what we'll have for you tomorrow, but hopefully some more fun StarCraft content. Again, like I say, probably going to alternate to like a non-AlphaStar video tomorrow, and then probably bring AlphaStar videos back on Wednesday. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.